won't believe what this poor woodcutter uncovers in the dark forest. A secret so powerful, it could change everything. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a man everyone called Poor. His name was Kofi, and he didn't own much. His clothes were old and torn, and his house was small and humble. The villagers often laughed at him, calling him names like the Poor Woodcutter. But Kofi wasn't sad. He had something no one else had, a big, kind heart. He loved his wife deeply, even though they had no children. Every day, Kofi would go deep into the forest to cut trees, hoping one day something good would happen to him. Little did he know, something magical was about to change his life forever. Kofi tried his best, but no one in the village liked him. They called him poor and useless, and no one ever smiled at him. When he passed by, people would laugh or turn away. Kofi didn't understand why they were so cruel. He worked hard, cutting trees in the forest to earn just enough for food and his wife. Some villagers even said that bad things always happened to him because he was poor. But Kofi didn't let their words hurt him. Little did he know, something strange and mysterious was waiting for him in the forest, something that would change everything. Even though Kofi was poor, he had something special. He loved his wife more than anything. They had no children, but they shared a deep bond that made them happy. Every day, Kofi would work hard in the forest, always thinking about how he could make his wife smile. They would sit by the fire at night, talking about their dreams. Kofi promised her that one day things would get better, but something strange was happening. As Kofi worked in the forest, he began to notice odd signs, unusual animal tracks and whispers in the wind. Something mysterious was stirring in the trees. Every morning, Kofi would leave his small house and walk into the dark, quiet forest. He would carry his axe, hoping to find trees to chop. The forest was thick and full of secrets. Birds chirped above, and strange sounds echoed from deep within the trees. Kofi didn't mind. He was used to it. But on this day, something felt different. The air was heavy, and the leaves rustled in a way that seemed to whisper his name. Kofi couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching him. He shrugged it off and continued his work, but the feeling grew stronger. One morning, the sky was filled with dark clouds. Kofi knew the rain was coming, but he had to finish his work. He grabbed his axe and headed toward the forest, despite the growing storm. The wind howled and the trees swayed as if they were alive. As Kofi cut the trees, the rain began to fall, heavy and cold. Suddenly, he heard something strange, a soft cry coming from deep within the forest. Curious, he walked towards the sound, his heart racing. Was it an animal or something else? The cry echoed again, more urgent this time, pulling Kofi deeper into the woods. Kofi followed the strange sound, his feet splashing through the puddles in the wet forest. The cry grew louder, but it didn't sound like any animal he had ever heard. As he pushed through thick bushes, he stumbled upon a small clearing. There, in the middle, he saw something surprising. A baby snake. It was trapped, struggling as a hungry hyena moved closer. Kofi's heart raced. Without thinking, he grabbed a stick and chased the hyena away. The baby snake looked up at him, its eyes full of fear and trust. Was it strange luck or something more mysterious at work? The hyena snarled as it stepped closer to the trapped baby snake. Its eyes were full of hunger, and it growled loudly, ready to strike. Kofi's heart raced as he quickly picked up a thick branch from the ground. With all his strength, he swung it at the hyena, making it run away into the trees. The baby snake lay still, looking at Kofi with wide, curious eyes. Kofi bent down to check on it, but something felt strange. The snake's eyes seemed to be watching him. He shook his head, thinking it was just his imagination, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave. The rain began to pour even harder, and Kofi knew it was time to go home. He looked at the baby snake one more time, still feeling uneasy. It was just a baby snake, he told himself, nothing more. But as he turned to leave, he heard the snake's soft hiss. Kofi paused. Was it trying to say something? The sound seemed to echo in his mind, though he couldn't make sense of it. He shook his head again, deciding he had to go. The jungle was too dangerous in this storm. But as he walked home, the strange feeling that something important had just happened stayed with him. As Kofi walked home through the heavy rain, he couldn't stop thinking about the baby snake. Something about it felt important, like it wasn't just any snake. His thoughts were interrupted by the soft sound of something moving behind him. He turned quickly, but there was nothing there, just the dark, wet trees. He shook his head, feeling silly for being so nervous. But as he reached his small home, he couldn't shake the feeling that the snake had been watching him in a way no animal ever had. What was it trying to tell him? He couldn't understand, but he felt that one day he would. The next few days were quiet. Kofi went back to the forest to chop wood, but he couldn't stop thinking about the baby snake. He kept wondering if it was just a coincidence or if there was something more to it. One evening as he worked, he noticed strange footprints near the place where he had saved the snake. They were unlike any animal tracks he had ever seen. They were small, but they seemed to lead into the thick forest, disappearing behind a large rock. Kofi felt a shiver run down his spine. What did those tracks mean? Who or what was following him? The rain began to fall again, this time heavier than before. Kofi looked up, noticing how the clouds seemed to swirl around the forest like a dark, angry shadow. He tried to shake off the strange feeling in his stomach, but it wouldn't go away. He walked quickly, hoping to finish his work before the storm grew worse. The wind howled, making the trees creak and groan. But then something caught his eye, something shiny, half buried in the mud. Kofi bent down to look. It was a small glittering stone. He reached for it, but as soon as his fingers touched it, the ground beneath him trembled. What was happening? Kofi quickly grabbed the shiny stone and shoved it into his pocket. The wind howled louder and the rain was now falling in sheets. He knew he had to get home fast. As he hurried through the forest, the trees seemed to move in the wind, casting eerie shadows that made the forest feel alive. Strange whispers echoed through the air, but Kofi couldn't understand them. The deeper he walked, the stronger the feeling that he wasn't alone grew. It was as if something was following him. His heart raced and he quickened his pace, desperate to reach the safety of his home. Kofi finally reached home, his clothes soaked from the rain. His wife, Afia, was waiting for him by the fire, her warm smile lighting up the room. But Kofi couldn't shake the strange feeling from the forest. "Are you all right?" Afia asked, noticing his worried look. Kofi hesitated, then smiled weakly. "I'm fine, just tired," he said, trying to hide his unease. But he couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious stone in his pocket and the whispers in the forest. Why had the ground trembled? And what was the strange energy that seemed to follow him? He couldn't tell Afia yet. A few days passed and Kofi tried to forget about the strange events in the forest. He returned to his normal routine, cutting trees and caring for his wife. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for him. One evening, as he sat by the fire, he noticed a small stone on the table. It glowed faintly in the dim light. Kofi reached for it, but as soon as his fingers touched it, The air around him seemed to grow cold. The room felt different, like something unseen was watching him. What was this stone, and why did it feel so powerful? Days later, Kofi returned to the forest, his mind still full of questions. The rain had stopped, but the forest felt different, darker, deeper. He walked through the trees, feeling like something was watching him. The air seemed thick with secrets. As he worked, the ground beneath him shifted, like something was stirring beneath the earth. Suddenly, Kofi noticed something strange, a trail of unusual footprints leading deep into the jungle. They were too small for a wild animal. His heart pounded. Who or what had left them? With every step he took, the forest seemed to grow more mysterious. That night, the forest felt even more mysterious. Kofi had stayed later than usual, and the moonlight barely touched the ground through the thick trees. Shadows danced in strange shapes, and the wind whispered softly, like it was trying to tell him something. As he walked, he heard a faint rustling behind him. When Kofi turned around, there was nothing there, just the quiet, dark woods. But the strange feeling didn't go away. The deeper he went, the more the forest seemed alive, as if the trees themselves were watching him. Was he alone, or was something else out there waiting? Kofi walked further into the jungle, his feet crunching on the damp ground. The trees grew thicker and the air felt colder, even though it was a warm night. Every now and then, he could hear strange sounds, soft hisses, and the sound of something moving in the bushes. But when he looked, there was nothing there. Kofi's heart started to beat faster. It felt like the jungle was closing in around him. Suddenly, he stepped on something hard and looked down. It was a shiny, strange rock, just like the one he had found before. How could it be here? Kofi picked up the shiny rock, feeling a chill run through him. He didn't remember seeing anything like it in the jungle before. As he looked around, he realized he had walked far deeper than usual. The trees seemed different here, taller, with thick vines hanging down. The ground felt softer, almost like it was breathing. Kofi's stomach tightened with fear. Where was he? It didn't look like the forest he knew. The air smelled strange, almost like flowers, but there was something eerie about it. Something wasn't right. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had entered a place he wasn't meant to be. Kofi walked deeper into the strange part of the forest, feeling more and more confused. The trees around him were huge, their trunks twisted in odd shapes. Suddenly, he saw something that made his heart race. In front of him, there was a giant stone archway covered in vines and glowing softly. He stepped closer and realized it wasn't just an arch. There were snake symbols carved all over it. It looked ancient, like a doorway to another world. Kofi hesitated. Was he really standing in a snake kingdom? The air felt heavy, and a strange quiet surrounded him. What was waiting inside? As Kofi stood before the stone arch, he suddenly heard a low growl. He froze. From the shadows, two glowing eyes appeared. Then another pair. Slowly, two huge tigers stepped out of the dark, their teeth sharp and their eyes full of hunger. Kofi's heart raced. He had never seen tigers like this before. They weren't like normal tigers. These looked evil. Their fur was dark, and their growls were deep and scary. Kofi turned to run, but the tigers were fast. He couldn't escape. The air around him felt thick and heavy, like the jungle itself was trapping him.